Two little birds sitting on a wall. One named Peter, one named Paul. Fly away, Peter. Fly away, Paul. Come back, Peter. Come back, Paul. How's she doing that? What you can't see, what I can't show you because I don't know how to do it, is the silver paper on each finger. The wee bit of silver paper on the end of each finger that's there when we're introducing you to Peter and Paul. But then they come back and it goes when they fly away. But then when they come back, the silver paper's there again. That's what my Aunt Brenda used to do. My Aunt Brenda, my mum's younger sister. And I'd be sitting on that coffee table. Well, I'd be standing. I'd be standing at probably, 3, 4. One of my earliest memories, I remember that raindrop coming from the gutter at the tenements in Winton Street in Ardrossan, which we stayed. I was probably trying to look up at the house that we actually stayed in. We stayed right up in the loft. In fact, that was where and I was born. That was the house I went to. I wasn't actually born there, and I was born in Irvine. Unfortunately, I was born at Irvine Central Hospital, but that's where Mum and Dad were staying at the time. Was this place in Ardrossan? Winton Street at Tappas Street was Winton Park, where Winton Rovers play. The ground is still there, and when you go to Tappas Street, you turn to the left. It's Anderson Terrace, and juniors ground at the top of the park. No wonder I love the football, but I remember being in the pram, getting pushed along in one of the wee prams. So I must have been like a toddler or whatever. And I just looked up, that's the gutter up there. And a big raindrop. I remember it going right, so watching it coming right the way down, hit me in the face. That's one of my earliest memories. And a life lesson as well. I don't know if it's a good memory or a bad memory, but definitely one of my earliest good memories was my Aunt Brenda doing this wee trick. Because we go to my nana's, I don't know if you did that thing, the same thing so many families do. You got a different name for your paternal grandmother and your maternal grandmother. Maybe just use different. Maybe it's Granny Smith and Granny, Anderson or whatever like that. With me, it was my nana. That was my maternal grandmother. Everybody knew her. All her grandkids, both sides of the family, all the different families knew her as their nana, and my paternal grandmother was my gran. And that was quite simple. So out to my nana's, and Lassie, who was the dog. Wee mongrel dog, it would come and attack you at the door with it, kind of licking you and all that, running about, it did friendly. And me and my sister, when my sister arrived in the scene a few years later, we loved Lassie and all that. And then my nana would also be giving it right straight away what the Waynes wanted to eat. They wanted, there's crisps there, there's lemonade, there's biscuits, and it was, loved it. And my mum's no, she stopped working to have the kids, and then she didn't go back to work until we were kind of aged to go to school. So you'd have these days, my earliest memories going out to Salkits. My nana's out in Salkits from Ardrossan, where we were staying. My mum's with Salkits, and we'd go out there. It seemed like the longest walk in the world, 2 minutes, but you go out there and get attacked with biscuits and friendly dogs when you go in. And sometimes her younger sister, my Aunt Brenda, would be there to see her niece and nephew. And my Aunt Brenda would be sitting down on the floor at the other side of this wee coffee table, and a plate of biscuits was in the middle, and there'd be, jammy dodgers, custard creams, bourbons. But there must have been, I don't know if it was a Viscount or something, there must have been biscuits there with silver paper on them, because my Aunt Brenda would get these bits of silver paper. I think that's what it was that inspired her to do it all the time. Bit of silver paper, I'll just use this to entertain the Waynes, because we're from Ardrossan, so we're easily amused. And she did the whole Peter and Paul thing, and she would put the fingers under the table. She did something. I'm sure there were maybe sticky bits of paper, and she would stick them under the bottom of the table, or she would just change her fingers. I still don't know. I'd got to date my 40th, and still she wouldn't let me know. She wouldn't tell me what was going on. But it used to really, I couldn't work it out. I thought it was mind blowing. I loved the one computer. That was one of my earliest memories. How you doing, folks? This is your FATEC. Rangers are going into our 38th League Cup final, trying to win it for the 29th time against Celtic, going into their 37th League Cup final, and they're trying to win it for the 22nd time. Last time we won it was 2023, and I was there. The last time Celtic won the League Cup was in 2023, and I was there. A preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Frankie, I think a bit of a personal problem or something tonight. That sounds really bad. It was a family issue, I think Frankie's said on Twitter. So unable to get Jersnet out, but it's usually, as you know, Jersnet, the best Rangers pod in Poddington. It goes out every Friday night, 9 PM live on YouTube, and it will be back at 9:30 on Sunday night. The flagship shows 9:30 every Sunday night, and they'll have plenty to talk about this Sunday night, you would imagine. So get yourself on that. I'm sponsored by that and by Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, they invented Santa. Coca-Cola invented Santa. I know, barroom boring. That's one of the... actually, Coca-Cola invented Santa. You think it's at the same time as Jesus, but no, it's actually the Santa that you know, wearing the red outfit with the white kind of in the front of his hood and that, and the beard and that stuff. That's actually an invention of the Coca-Cola Corporation, really quite recently, comparatively. In places like Italy and Spain and that, they don't really do a lot of Santa Claus thing. It doesn't actually mean much to them. They've got different kind of figures, mythical figures around the whole festival of Christmas. It's kind of a North American thing that we've adapted in Britain. It's come about quite recently, you know, like that. It's just a kind of barroom bore stuff. You know, the kind of person that would tell you, do you know who's won the Scottish Cup most times after Rangers and Celtic? No, not Aberdeen, no, it's not Hearts, no, it's not even Hibs, no, it's Queen's Park, actually, it's Queen's Park. That kind of thing, you get that, but it's not in Turkey, you know, it originally came from Turkey, Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, whatever. You know, I just thought it was Barry, you know, I don't mean Barry in Wales, you know, oh, it's Gavin and Stacey's back. I mean Barry, is like Puglia. The Stadio San Nicola. I know Renzo Piano, the guy that did the Shard, he did the Stadio San Nicola Stadium of St. Nicholas. You know, St. Nick, the little St. Nick. He did the Santa Claus Stadium. That's where Red Star Belgrade, the only time it had a European final, hosted Romania, Soviet Union, and Cameroon during Italia '90. So big Oleg Kuznetsov played there. I know that for a fact. But other than that, it just hosted one European final, and it's the biggest anticlimax European final of all time. Not any of the ones Rangers have played in. It was the 1991 European Cup final between Red Star Belgrade, Crvena Zvezda Beograd. You know, Étoile Rouge, a kind of red stars, quite a Christmassy thing, isn't it? Against a Marseille, Olympic Marseille, two absolutely phenomenal teams, and of course, Red Star Belgrade had put us out earlier in that tournament. Sensational against us in the Serbian capital, which was then the Yugoslavian capital. That was about to change. And, well, not for quite a while actually, because they stayed Yugoslavia, then with Yugoslavia and Montenegro before they actually became Serbia. No, but you get the idea. And Marseille, Chris Waddle there, and Marseille, well, we'd have relations with them in the Champions League, wouldn't we, a couple of seasons later? But they were blowing Europe apart, those two teams. That was like sensational. They got to the final, cancelled each other out, both a bit knackered, 0-0. I was gutted. Sat and watched it live, thought it was going to be amazing. Absolutely gutted, went to penalties. Darko Panchev scored the winning penalty, and that was it. Red Star Belgrade won. In the Stadio San Nicola, Coca-Cola, there's a wee Santa Claus. I hope your Christmas preparations are going well. Sorry, folks, that's me. I'm sponsored by them, and I missed out who I'm sponsored by, didn't I? I missed all that kind of stuff out. Usually during my pods, I'll tell you who I'm sponsored by. I'll tell you what the pod's going to be about. I'll tell you it's the Fat Ek pod, and then I'll announce my name and give you a wee bit of a song lyric. Just sometimes it's really got something quite significant to do. It's really quite clever, the song lyric I've picked, because it's right on the money. It's a proper... Other times it's really subtle. You've got to work at it. What is the significance here? Other times it's got nothing to do with it, because I couldn't be bothered thinking of something. I just think of it. I just find a really deep song lyric, and it makes you go, there must be something to that. Alex really clever with that stuff. You know, it's not. It's just, you know, it's up to you. You can make up your mind whether the song lyric I give you after my name in each pod is got anything to do with the pod at hand. But I missed all that out last night, didn't I? The excitement of my post-match reaction pod outside Ibrox just after that amazingly intense old British barnstormer of a game against Spurs. You've got a Moroccan scoring one goal, a Macedonian Swede scoring the equaliser, an Australian manager, a Belgian manager, and we still managed to produce this good old-fashioned British cup tie in a European group stage at Ibrox. It was phenomenal. It was a great night. It was great fun. Rangers and Celtic both getting really creditable draws this week in Europe. Celtic up against the Bad Blue Boys in Zagreb. Haven't spoken there about Red Star Belgrade. We go over the border to Croatia, and they were a good draw for them over there as well. So everybody else set up nicely for Sunday. My name is Alec Anderson. I can't confront you, I never could do that which might hurt you to try and be cool. When I say this way is a water slide away from me that takes her further every day. So be cool. Say it ain't so. Your drug is a heartbreaker. Say it ain't so. My love is a life taker. Yeah, but I forgot to do that last night, didn't I? I forgot to do that last night. The wee bit where I introduced, I did my sponsorship and all that and this kind of thing. And if nothing else, I am a diligent. So my name's Alec Anderson. Dear Daddy, I write you in spite of years of silence. You cleaned up, found Jesus, things are good, or so I hear. This bottle of Stevens awakens ancient feelings like father, stepfather. This son is drowning in the floods. Yeah, 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 yeah. And this is your FATEC 2024 25 League Cup final preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Jersnet, the best pod in podding. The last time I was on Jersnet, I was apologising for the previous time I'd been on Jersnet when I'd said James Tavernier, if you didn't like him, you were racist. If you're a Rangers fan, didn't like James Tavernier. It wasn't that. I've explained that a million times. That's not actually what I meant to say. It was a different thing like that. But I also said, but that was such a bad mistake to make. I forgot about the other massive mistake I made in that pod, which was Rob was asking me about the development of youth players at Ibrox, and getting players for the reserves and the B team, young players, bringing them through. Like Robbie Fraser coming on last night, and I don't know. Sometimes you just say something because you think it sounds better than no. I've actually thought it through, and I do have a kind of suspicion about young players. I'd just get me a proper seasoned, like 24, 25-year-old, which is still really young compared to me. Get me somebody who's a total level that's just come into your team just now, and start performing. I've not have time to be bringing through young players, and that's a crazy thing to say in and of itself. But what I said to make it sound a bit flashier was, I don't really care about young players at this moment in time. I would rather just getting a hold of the kind of player who could win you an Old Firm League Cup final. Because we've been discussing how things were going so badly at that point in time for Philip Clement. We thought we were going to get thrashed by Spurs and then thrashed in this League Cup final by Celtic, which we might yet do. So I says, no, I'm not really interested in bringing through like young players. I'm prepared to get the kind of player who's going to win you an Old Firm League Cup final. Most famous goal scored by a Rangers player in an Old Firm League Cup final. 16-year-old Derek Johnson. 16-year-old Derek Johnson. So that's whose hand you're in tonight, folks. That's whose hand you're in today. Whenever you're listening to this podcast, I can give it a lot of patter, but basically, it's not just that I talk. It's not that I talk rubbish. I talk a specifically kind of self-mocking rubbish that comes back and slaps me in the face. It was how stupid it is. So see if you can spot those kind of things as well. That gives you something to look forward to. I'm sponsored by Jersnet and also sponsored by Harry Cortes. You seen Harry Cortes? Harry Cortes, the adverts just now on telly for your curtains and your bed and your sofa. Harry Cortes. And I don't know if you let me keep thinking it's an age thing again. I'm going to talk about the 70s again in a wee bit. But I just always think Harry Carey. And it's, I think it's harakiri. Harakiri, the Japanese call it. No, the ritual suicide, seppuku. I think it's a proper name. I only heard that a few years ago. As far as when I was growing up, it's like kamikazes and harikari and all that was kind of stuff. The kind of rubbish you used to talk about when you were a kid, very unpolitically correct. But it makes me think about Harry Carey. Harry Carey is an actor, and he plays Brad Jorgensen in The Searchers, which might, Raging Bull, Heat, The Searchers might actually be my favourite film of all time. It's just a phenomenal movie. John Wayne, John Ford, and he was Harry Carey, the actor. He was regularly in the John Ford films, but he was in The Searchers, and he's Brad Jorgensen. And he get, she's a school teacher by golly. That's his mum, and he gets himself killed basically. John Wayne. Ethan says, "I got your son killed, didn't I?" Well, it's this country. Oh, this country, Ethan, that kind of got him killed, but he thinks Bad York. John Wayne's got to break it. Sorry, Uncle Ethan's got to break it to him when they're looking over the camp, the Native Americans that they feel have kidnapped his sweetheart Lucy. I can see her dress. I can make out her dress down there. That's no Lucy. How do you know it's no her? It's a local lassie wearing the dress because I buried Lucy back there and he just loses his shit and he just charges right in amongst himself. It's a suicide mission. Harry. He's called Harry. It's a suicide mission that he goes on. Of course, he kills a few of them, but he gets killed straight away in The Searchers. Really harrowing moment, that one. But it also made me think about the guy Harry Carey. Harry Carey. It's Caray. I think he's kind of Italian, Romanian mix, and he changed his original name to be more kind of American. But Harry Carey, there's a statue of him outside Wrigley Field. No, Wrigley Field, it's in the Blues Brothers. But Wrigley Field, it's the Chicago Cubs, we're the Bears and the Cubs and the great paraphernalia, really suits us, red, white and blue and stuff like that. But I went to see the Cubs at Wrigley in 2008, and there was the summer of 2008, and there's a statue outside of this guy where I think he's got a microphone. And it's Harry Carey. I think he died in the 90s, and in his 80s, but he died in the 90s. He was a kind of broadcaster and all that, but he was a shot caller, and not in the kind of the prison movie type scenario, the woods and all that. It's the area lowrider. It's announcing who's pitching, who's batting, and that kind of thing. Harry Carey, and there's a thing with the Cubs fans. I'll meet you at Harry, and that always makes me think the John Gregg statue. You say, folks, I'll meet you John Gregg statue. But there's a statue of this guy who's a broadcaster. He'd been at all sorts of clubs or franchises, but he'd spent the last kind of decade of his career at Wrigley Field announcing all the shots and what have you. Nothing suicidal linked to that, just the name. But these are the things that go through my head. And this is a double header. I mean, it was presented as two games. These were the two games that were going to get Philippe Clement the sack. It was going to get us humiliated if we kept Philippe Clement in the job. This was all the crap we've been hearing for years. And it might yet happen. On Sunday, we could get a total humiliation. The Spurs game will be forgotten, because we didn't win it. And they end up a bad miss, I would think we could say, by Cyril Dessers. But wasn't it really symbolic that it was also a great save by the guy who saved the penalty from Alfredo Morelos in the 2019-2020 League Cup final, the first League Cup final we'd played in since we come back from the lower leagues. The first post-2012 League Cup final we played, it was an Old Firm League Cup final, and there was Morelos, who last night I'm standing outside Ibrox saying, the Rangers fans, we want Pete Morelos, we want Alfredo Morelos, but the Alfredo Morelos that was scoring all the goals in the Europa League, he was ragdolling defenders all across Scotland and all across Europe, and I'm like, we've got him. Igamane is... He is that guy. He's got 4 goals in the Europa League group stages. He's got 2 in the league home and away. He's only been playing regularly for the last month, and this is the amount of goals he's got. He's showboating, he's nutmegging, he's doing everything. He's just got that kind of X factor. They don't know how to handle him, defences. And somebody said to me, I hope he's got a better record against Celtic than Morelos had. All right, that is, don't let him take a penalty. If we get a penalty on Sunday and it's 0-0 and we've dominated the game as per 2019-20, don't let Igamane take the penalty. Or maybe Igamane on Sunday could, it is Sunday that the game's been played. I'm gone, so I need to remember that. Maybe he could end up scoring as many goals on Sunday as Alfredo Morelos scored against Celtic in his entire career at Rangers, which was 3. 1 at Hampden, 1 at Ibrox, 1 at Parkhead. I think it, in fact, was it League Cup, Scottish Cup, and League? No, I think the one at Ibrox, it was a league game. Was it a league game, the 4-1 win? Aye, it was a league game at Ibrox. But there you go, 3 different venues. But Igamane could be doing that, or he might not be playing at all. He might be injured, or the manager might decide to drop him. It's just one of the many things that's going through my head just now. It's a very exciting period between these 2 games. These games that are kind of melded together. They've been presented as a pair. We've got through one of them with flying colours, I would say. The game against Spurs, we'll come out that feeling good. But how's it going to affect us? Is the manager today was avoiding questions, as he was last night in the post-match presser. The pre-match presser followed quickly upon, as it should. He's avoiding questions about the fact that Celtic have had more rest. Now, they've had to travel. Celtic had to travel during the week, but they've had more rest before this League Cup final. Somebody was trying to say, you'll be used to it though, playing Thursday, Sunday. Yeah, but it's one of those things we're going to have to overcome. It's one of the things that the position we are in, which starts with us having been in the lower leagues, Celtic having the league to themselves for 4 years and getting that stability, getting that financial advantage, that they're still playing off. They're able to change things up in a big way in their squad really quickly. It's something we're going to have to go the extra mile to overcome at one point. We've done it before. We're going to have to do it again. And Sunday, hopefully, is going to be the day. I know it just looks like Philippe Clement can't win an Old Firm game. He cannot win an Old Firm game because he hasn't won an Old Firm game. This is his 6th he's gone into, and he hasn't won any of the previous 5 Not quite as bad as Ange Postecoglou, a manager we met again last night. Not quite as bad as his record when he first started at Celtic. He lost his first Old Firm game, Ange Postecoglou, and was a bit of a joke right up until December. I mean, them drawing 0-0 with St Mirren, and St Mirren, COVID-afflicted squad. They were basically a bunch of school kids playing against Celtic, held them 0-0, and we were all killing ourselves laughing. Oh my God, this guy's clueless. Celtic managed to bring in 2 or 3 players during the delayed, the extended or the brought forwards winter break. You've got to get a meme to go with that. If you're a Celtic employee, you've got like anti-football when we got to 2008 Europa League final. Losers, I think that was the one where we got to the 2022 Europa League final, just because we lost the thing on penalties, whereas when Celtic went to the same city in the same competition, it was the greatest thing of all time. Is that kind of thing. You've got to get something to go with. I think then at the winter break in Ange Postecoglou's first season in charge of Celtic, it was lifeblood of the game. Lifeblood of the game. We've got to try and delay it to make sure we get fans in. No point in playing football when there's no fans in stadiums. Do you hate fans? They tried all that crap with the women's game at Ibrox as well. I'm just getting into all my kind of petty dislike of Celtic in there, because I'm going to say some kind of horrible stuff about Rangers when it comes to Old Firm games a bit later in this pod, not very later. So I'm trying to get my kind of staunch points in there first, so you'll not end up firebombing my house when I say what I've got to say later. It's going to be mind blowing. So Ange Postecoglou, we're writing him off the first 6 months of his time at Celtic, and he turned it around pretty sharpish. It just took one big win, a few wee nicks, a few wee changes, a bit of cheating, emotional, moral cheating by Celtic, and then that was it. Pumped us 3-0, Gio's first trip there. But at that point in time, I'm pretty sure we had gone 5 games, winning 4 and drawing 1 against Celtic the previous season. We beat them under Steven Gerrard, that Highlander goal in the first Old Firm game the following season, and I think we beat them at Parkhead in the season that was cut short to give Celtic the title for COVID the previous season. So I think it'd been 7 games against Celtic, 7 straight Old Firm games, and we'd won 6 and there'd been a draw. So that's kind of the record that Philippe Clement's got in there with on Sunday, and then when it changed big time, and it tends to be the way it happens in the Old Firm. It just takes one kind of a wee flick of the switch, and suddenly the other side is dominating. It's a game of extremes, the Old Firm game, when it moves in a season-long way, and the changing of the guard, it could be quite spectacular. Going back to us winning a double and a treble under Dick Advocat, and then Martin O'Neill comes in, and we're getting pumped 6-2, and it's just, we won the previous Old Firm game by 4 goals, and the next Old Firm game by 4 goals, but Celtic somehow, they won that one by 4 goals in the middle, and that's the one that everybody remembered, and it created because they won 6-2 as opposed to 4-0 or 5-1, and somehow it's more spectacular. So it's like 6 a bigger number than 5 or 4. It doesn't matter, it was still 4 goals. It was 4 goals in 3 successive Old Firm games, of which we won 2. That was the spectacular one, and Celtic fed off that, and away they went under Martin O'Neill's quite convincing management. And then Alan McLeish comes in, and he wins a treble, and it tends to happen with the Old Firm. It's getting more and more pronounced, I think, as the years go on. Even though we had a little spell in the lower leagues since then, that when you start dominating, you really start dominating this fixture, and we've just got to hope that we can push it on Sunday to get it over that edge. It's our 3rd straight League Cup final. It's our 4th in 6 seasons, and I think after all that chat about us doing the journey back, and this chat was coming from me, it's only me that I've heard saying this, I don't know if anybody else backed me up in this weirdo tack, but I feel like we're doing it the wrong way around. We started dominating, or not dominating Europe, we get great runs in Europe before we won the League Cup. We got to a European final post 2012 before we'd actually got to the League Cup final, before we'd actually won the League Cup, should I say. We won the league unbeaten, before we won the Scottish Cup for the first time post 2012. This kind of stuff, and it was like, we was doing everything back to front. But then we won the League Cup last season. That was our 2nd straight League Cup final, and here we are in our 3rd straight League Cup final. It's our 4th, as I say, in 6 seasons. So it's like this might end up being our old staple, because the League Cup would used to be the one we could win every season. Even when we went 9 years without winning the league, we won 2 or 3 League Cups in there. and this could end up on Sunday, something that's been forgotten. It's the first major trophy we could retain. For the first time, we're retaining a major trophy for the first time since 2012. Excuse me, I'm getting really emotional and overexcited about this. And all that kind of, 2 trophies in 11 years, before we won it last season, suddenly would become at least 4 trophies in 5 seasons. So that stuff like that just disappearing slowly. That's what I've always said when people are wanting to hound folk out the door and complete changing of the board and everything like that. The protests get a bit too much. The moaning gets a bit kind of self-destructive. I think that they'll narrow it down to this kind of meme-like, even the 2 trophies in 11 years, just ignored the fact we've been to a European final, ignored all the European group stages that we'd qualified for, which are more important than winning a League Cup as far as I'm concerned. So, but the League Cup, if we could win this thing, we're retaining a trophy. We're beating Celtic for the first time under Clement. The last meaningful time we beat Celtic was the Scottish Cup semi-final 2022 under Giovanni van Bronckhorst, and here we have the first meaningful time we beat Celtic since we come back up to the lower leagues was a Scottish Cup semi-final against Celtic in 2016. And I have this whole theory about this. We're going to keep doing this thing of having periods where it's like I said, we're trying to sail through the undertow that's created by the financial collapse of 2012 as losing our entire infrastructure. Ended up having to start again in the bottom, our league membership having to start again in the bottom tier. It's created this kind of thing of us having to get through, kind of swimming against major waves, swimming against really huge waves that are kind of throwing themselves against us. So you'll get a surge to get you through one of them, and it propels you to, a league season unbeaten. And it propels you get through the other side, and next thing you're in a European final. Stuff we found almost impossible to do, all through the great years under Murray and under Lawrence Marlborough, what have you, where we had all the money, we just dominated Scottish football, 0 financial problems, but yet we couldn't get to European finals. We were never winning a league by going the whole season unbeaten. But you're doing this stuff just now because you're creating this kind of this propulsion, this need to forge through the heavy weather created by that financial collapse in 2012. But once you get through, you get thrown right back. We make it into the Champions League for the first time since pre-2012. It's a record scudding, kind of, not exactly, not a definite record poor performance. No, we're not definitely the worst team ever in Champions League group stage history, but we're bloody close. So these things happen. It just becomes, we get back into the top flight. Oh, it's fantastic. Oh no, we're getting beat 5-1 at Ibrox by Celtic. It's things that didn't happen before 2000. The bad stuff and the good stuff. It's much more extreme with Rangers just now, and we're just trying to catch a bit of steadiness, a bit of composure in the way we're building up to retaining the title. That's the big thing. It seems to be, for me, reading between the lines, people, Rangers fans, almost dismissing our European progress, dismissing these great European runs we're on of the last few years, because they're just so desperate to see us domestically in charge again. And I'm thinking, what is the point? At what point will you feel as if Rangers are properly back, or properly doing what you want them to do? And I think it's going to be retaining the league title, not just winning it again. We did that in 2021. It's to win it again the following season, and maybe the season after that, or win the league title. And we haven't won 2 domestic trophies in one season since 2012. So I know a lot of people would like to see 2012 as an excuse. Why do you keep harping back to that, Alec? Look at the number of trophies we won in the 12 years up to 2012, and look at the number of trophies we've won in the 12 years since 2012. 2012 is the major, unavoidable break point in Rangers' domestic competence, domestic silverware we're wearing. So we really need to start retaining trophies, start retaining the League Cup, and then maybe retain the Scottish Cup, and before we know it, we'll be retaining league titles again. But it's a major, major game on Sunday. Our new CEO, he starts on Monday, and his first mission, of course, is to give us the skinny, the inside track for our next Europa League opponent's been an ex-Man United man, but it'd be quite good if Philip Clement can just welcome him by saying, "Oh, how you doing?" And maybe we're talking to me after the United game. We just, "Hey, your jacket, just put your jacket up next to that big shiny major domestic trophy there." I said, "Was that one not here when I came for the interview?" Exactly, and it's still here. That'd be a nice start for Monsieur Clement. I'm quite up for this game. on Sunday if I think about Rangers winning it. But I think about Rangers losing it. Obviously, none of us are up for that. But it's also just I just remember one night I kind of bored, and so I went out to the Copa Club with a few of my pals, went to the Copa Club, and Vicky come along. You know, like we used to know and all that, and she was a bit bored. Her man, he was away at a kind of training thing, so she come along with us just for a few drinks. No, I'm doing it. We've got the gear and that home, and we've got a nice wee table. And we're sitting over a few drinks, and next thing is our brother-in-law. He comes in, and he's not happy at all. And he comes up, he's saying to her, right, you up the road with me, you're making a fool of my brother. What? And he's saying to me, you know what I'm talking about. You're messing about with me. And I'm like, mate, I'm not doing it. She wanted a nice night out. We're just buying her a few drinks now. We're just keeping her company. What's the and he kind of takes a wee swing from me and all that. I'm like, wow, what's going on here? And I was like, calm down. You know, and he's having an argument. She didn't want to go anywhere. So he takes her away, has a wee argument with her. I think he kind of convinces her to get up the road. You know, so Vicky, she's up the road. And then he comes back. And he's like, all right, sorry about that. I thought I was a bit wound up there. And he's like, you alright? And he's like, everybody's having a good time. Next thing, he picks up the fucking glass, soda water and lime, and cracks me on the side of the head with it. You know, and he's laying it, and then the bouncers come in and all that, you know, and they're talking about Tommy. And don't you mention Tommy? You know, so he gets a few punches into me, and I can't get out of my seat. So eventually, he sneaks, quite a wee guy, so he gets out, and he gets out the front of the club, because the bouncers are dealing with it. My mates are, you know, talking to the bouncers and all that, and try to stop it getting off proper. So I get outside, and I'm like, I'm going to have this wee get, you know, for hitting me with that. And next thing, he's behind me, and he's got one of the things, you know, for the cord, the red cord. Like when you're, you know, getting a line outside a club, a kind of posh club to hold folk back, you know, the wee kind of brass pole thing that it's on, and he's scones me on the back of the nut with it. And he's booting, I've fallen down the steps and all that, so I just can't get up, and he's putting the boot into him, and he's hit me with this thing and all that. And the next thing, I saw this taxi pulling up, and there's a couple in it, and I was kind of half unconscious at this point, but I tried to get into the taxi just to kind of get out the road, and I just slipped on the gut, and he starts cracking my head in the taxi door. He's cracked my head in the car door. It was absolute. A few days later, I mean, Tommy gets us down to the Debonair Social Club, and he makes us kind of shake hands about it and all that. We're supposed to have forgotten all about it, but we haven't. You know, haven't. It was bad. And then I found a few years later, after that, I think it was in June. It was June the 11th, 1970, in Queens. It was the Sweet Lounge. You know, Sweet spelled as an SUITE. The Sweet Lounge we're in, and I just got out. It was my kind of homecoming. I'm just a few of my boys just at the end of the bar down at the Sweet Lounge, and Henry's. You know, he's a barman there, he's the owner, he's pouring his drinks and all that, and Jimmy's there, you know, he's chatting away, and next thing, and he comes again, same, you know, Tommy, he's calling himself, and he comes, you know, and I'm like, right, oh, what, and he's kind of blanking me, he's got a woman with him and all that, you know, I don't even think it was his wife or anything, and he's wanted to just join Henry and Jimmy for a drink, and he's blanking me. I'm like, oh, come here, what you try to ignore me? And he's like, oh, no, I didn't see you there. And he comes over and he's gives a wee hug and all that. But you could tell he wasn't really interested. He says something, don't mess up my suit and all that. I'm trying to give him a hug, because it's my homecoming party. A few drinks and all that. And I says, oh, just what you know, I just mentioned to my pals, you know, that, see, when he was a wee boy, like, he could really shine your shoes. He could buff your shoes up something up. So it was great with the old shoe shine, and he didn't like this at all. And he said to me, I don't shine shoes anymore. I maybe don't know. So I'm just having a laugh. He was talking, you could do well, you don't sound like you're joking at, and next. So I just thought, no bother, right? So I just tried to have a drink, and I just thought, no, get him and get your fucking shine box. You know, and he went mental and all that. He's in a hold me back, and Jimmy's tried to tell me that I insulted him a little bit. But I didn't insult him at all, you know. Henry's like, no, don't worry, I'll get you a drink. When drinks are on me, and I said, I don't have to drink me if you don't want. It's not. Jimmy's like, drinks are on the house. Next, I kept drinking him. Next, I'm just talking to Jimmy up at the bar, and we shut the place just to do his. Next thing, I get sconned out the back of the night. The wee bastards come in, and he sneaked in behind me, and he's punching the shit out of me, and he had a gun. And he tries to shoot me through the head, but I think Henry knocked it out of the way. Anyway, I end up in the back of their motor, and I was trying to get out the boot of the motor. They opened up the boot of the motor, and he's stabbing me with a kitchen knife and all that. And I was like, I'm absolutely sick of this. I'm getting totally sick of this. I'm going to bury me out in the woods and all that. So a few years after that, again, I'm having to follow him all about Las Vegas and this kind of thing. But then I had to meet him just outside Las Vegas, because of course he's in trouble with the police and all that. And I just meet him in these big cornfields. I've got a few of the boys with me. You know, and he thinks he's coming along. Him and his brother come along just for a wee chat. I fucking chat on it. So I get the bit of bats. Aye, Billy Bats. I've got the bats this time, big baseball bats. So I just got behind him and just scone him one right in the side of the leg, and down he goes. And my mates hold on to him, and I go and get his brother. And there's 2 or 3 years just whamming into his brother. It's totally, he's going, oh, mate. I'm like, oh, you gave me the doings. You gave me, it was great when you were giving me the doings, wasn't it? But now I'm giving you the doings, you don't like it. And it's like, oh, he's still alive, my brother's still alive. So I just do a baseball bat, is that right? And it sconed him, his brother right across his skull. Stripped it to him, chucked him in a big hole in the ground and buried them while they were still alive, just to teach everybody a lesson. So what I'm trying to say there, Frank Vincent takes a lot of doings for Joe Pesci in the early Scorsese films, but eventually, Frank Vincent gets his revenge. Eventually, Frank, you have to take a few doings every now and then. Eventually, he gets his revenge on Joe Pesci. Big style, sickening style in Casino, really. We don't have to talk about Sopranos, but let's not go into what happened in Sopranos. Frank Vincent got his revenge on Joe Pesci. Frank Vincent was a better dresser. Frank Vincent was an actual stand-up comedian as well, an expert on cigars and a bit smoother. So I think we're Frank Vincent. We're going to get our Casino moment on Sunday. Don't give up because you're taking a doing a few times after the same kind of bam pot. Eventually, you will get your revenge. Do you have anything in any way constructive to say? Maybe we should talk about the football team. Maybe we should talk about the actual the squad, what's happening, and our big worry, of course, was when we saw John Souttar, who's been playing brilliantly this season, and every time somebody mentioned how well he was playing, it was a first run of games he'd had. Even John Souttar himself, I'm touching the wood, and it happened. He gets an injury last night, and it's one of those ones where he just sits down, and that makes you think it's the worst. It's not in the middle of a tackle, or it's not like a cramp or pulling up, just with a dead leg or something. The ball's nowhere near him. He just sits down in the middle of the park and say, I'm out of here. And you think, something's pulled, something's popped, it's a badging. But the manager couldn't confirm what it was in the post-match presser after the Spurs game, and he still couldn't. Maybe it's the mind games. Maybe he doesn't want Celtic knowing that we don't have John Souttar, but he couldn't confirm what the injury was again today, and if it was going to rule him out of the game on Sunday in the pre-match presser for this final. So I don't know. Maybe there's a chance. That gives me hope. Unless there's been mind games played here, the fact that it's not an injury you can diagnose straight away. So you think a decent doctor, a decent physio is going to go, right, that's a quad or whatever. What's the ACL, something like that. It's something we don't really know yet. We don't know what it's going to be like. He's trying his hardest to be fit in time for Sunday. So maybe it's not as bad as we first thought. There is hope there. Igamane, he kind of pulled up a bit as well before he gets subbed off, although he's probably due to get subbed off anyway. That's one you're probably thinking the manager's happy for Celtic to think he might not be playing Igamane. He might be injured because he's turning into our most dangerous player right now. And we've got more and more, haven't we? We have got more and more dangerous players. As the manager himself was saying, he's reduced the age of the squad. It's given us a bit more energy. And that's the criticism that Clement was under at the beginning of the season. It'll all come back out to play on one level or another, depending how the game goes on Sunday. But you can see this thing about reducing the age of the squad and how James Tavernier wasn't the person that was holding us back. Tav maybe needed a wee tiny break, but it has been a wee tiny break, and he's come back and just been the last 4. He comes on at the end of the game in Nice and really enjoyed himself, and then he's started the last 4 games now. Sets up a goal against Kilmarnock, scores the first goal against Kilmarnock, sets up the last goal against Kilmarnock. He has the game against St Johnstone up at, but he's basically caused the own goal, but doesn't get a number for that. He's in there right underneath Jason Holt, making sure it goes over the line, the only goal of the game. He scores an absolute belter up at Ross County to finish the game off in there last night. In the heat of the moment, I just kind of lose my memory. There's short-term memory loss with the excitement, the euphoria of these goals and these big European games. I just thought it was a ball over the top that it just landed at Igamane's feet. But I've watched the goals back today, and what a ball from James Tavernier, absolutely sensational. We'll just pretend it was definitely Igamane he was going for, but it doesn't matter. There was 2 of them in there, and the ball could have suited either of them in the box. Phenomenal stuff from James Tavernier. So, but there's this fear that Maeda, I think it's overstated. To be honest, I think it's overstated. The thing with Maeda against James Tavernier, He's definitely given them problems, yeah, but I think Maeda gives everybody problems. And as we've said before, Tav's game isn't. He needs to defend. He should defend well when he has to defend. But for example, the Scottish Cup final, I think he had one moment against Maeda where he looked a bit, and it was in the first half, so it didn't result in a goal. The goal, as we know, was scored in the last minute of that game. But I don't know. I would be happy with either Sterling or Tav starting that game on Sunday, and the creation, the numbers that Tav's getting make you think. I think Cerny's played an awful lot of football for us recently. Is there a chance Cerny's going to end up outside right, the wide right player? He's going to end up maybe sitting on the bench at the start of this one, and we'll have Sterling right back and Tav going wide right or something like that. I doubt it. I doubt it. I think it's more likely to be Sterling or Tav playing right wing back, and Cerny being on the right hand side. The manager again saying that Cortes and Matondo not really fit, even though Cortes was in the squad last night. So the chances of Cortes coming back on the left-hand side, again, it could be the mind games, but it would be a hell of a game to start Cortes in. First Old Firm Cup, first cup final of the season. If he's been struggling, if he's just coming back from a long-term injury as he is, it'd be quite the thing to unleash him tomorrow night. So people are wondering, and he was being asked today, Philip Clement, are you going to do the thing with Jefte and Yilmaz? This little kind of Frankenstein monster of a left flank we've got going now, with Jefte as left back and as left wing back, because he covers every. He's as threatening as an attack as he is at full back. Jefte, but Celtic, different kettle of fish altogether. Yilmaz able to play wide left. He's done it a few games as a substitute. He started last night. It was a bit of a revelation. It worked really well, and that let Bajrami go in to play number 10. But we've got Hagi and Danilo coming back for this game, possibly. So I don't know. Can Hagi then play? Could Hagi go in at 10 and we keep Bajrami wide left? I don't know if that's enough pace. I think Clement's team relies on pace down the flanks. Maybe Yilmaz could go and sit left back, and Jefte could play wide left. We've got options, baby. That's the thing. We've also got options now. Danilo, have Danilo come on and play at 10. Really, is what he's been doing against Kilmarnock, against St Johnstone as a sub in the whole game at Dingwall. Gets his goal up there, got a goal against Kilmarnock. I think Danilo has to start, but would that mean dropping Igamane? Maybe he's injured anyway, Igamane. We don't know. We don't know enough. Igamane and John Souttar are doubts, but you would want Souttar to start. I think we have to want Igamane to start the way he's playing just now. But that mean Danilo being dropped? That seems a bit... what I'm trying to tell you is we've got options. I've just named the options. I don't know what the team's going to be. I think Nico Raskin's got to play. Nico Raskin was phenomenal last night. He's been phenomenal for the last month, really. He's different level. So we have him in. I think he played quite well in the Scottish Cup final as well, and didn't do a lot after that into this season. But I remember him playing really well in the Scottish Cup final as far as I was concerned, and I thought Diomande did well then as well. But now we've got Connor Barron. I don't know, Connor Barron's been kind of quiet up at Dingwall, and then didn't start last night. We didn't seem to miss him at all. So again, we've got a whole week off next week. There's no midweek game next week. The idea that players are going to be exhausted, I don't think they should be. I think they should all be up for this. Again, it's that situation where you try and take the high and the advanced, intense muscle memory of what we did on Thursday night and translate it into this game on Sunday. Just like, right, Celtic played on Tuesday night, they got a good draw. We played Thursday night, got a good draw. We're still feeling the buzz, you would hope. As much as we're feeling maybe a bit more tired, try and use that to get a good start. The whole thing with these games has been the biggest criticism of Clement, the biggest criticism of Rangers even before Clement was starting games slowly. Recently, the past few years, we're starting games too slowly, particularly against Celtic. You know, the 3-each draw with Celtic when we're going to go down after however many seconds it was at Ibrox, Maeda kicking it off Tavernier's shins, or that kind of stuff. But yet, the mad, not even an irony, it's just perverse. The game that we've started best this season, albeit we scored a goal after 6-7 minutes on Sunday there up at Dingwall. It was a particularly great start by the team. It was a great moment. Our best start, most composed, intense, up for it, was that 11 great minutes we had at Parkhead before Philip Clement went on to take his worst doing under Celtic. His worst doing against Celtic. His last Old Firm game was his worst. He had 4 last season. Lost 3 of them, drew 1, but the ones he lost were all by a single goal. And Rangers lost under Michael Beale. We lost to Celtic at Ibrox last season. That was a single goal as well. Celtic were pretty bad that day, but we were just a bit worse. So we've had goals disallowed in these games. VAR goals disallowed, 3, 4 of these games? Critical moments, critical goals, particularly in such tight games. So the game at Parkhead this season, we got there, were absolutely fantastic for 11 minutes, which is pathetic, I know. But it can't be avoided. If we're talking about us not being able to beat Celtic, the factor that we can't start games well. Well, we started it bloody well at Parkhead, and then it all fell apart. And I think that's just because it was a sketch at that point in time. The team that Clement's tried to put together, the rebuild it's had to start during the summer. It was a sketch stage then. So we had that goal Celtic scored that was offside, and it didn't just spook us, it spooked Celtic as well, because it took them about 6 minutes or so before they scored a legitimate goal. And I think they kind of were a bit scared by the fact that even their usual early goal had been disallowed. But then they realised that we were doing even less after that disallowed goal, and they eventually started going for us. They got their quick goals, the quick 2 goals that they always get once they do take the leads at home against us, and that was the end of that game. It got a bit worse. It's the only scudding Clement has taken. I think the team just wasn't ready then. But we can take the idea now is we can take that start to a game and spread it right through. Like maintain after making that kind of start to the game on Sunday, hopefully, and just keep it intense for the full 90 or the full 120. There has to be a winner, which means there has to be a loser. Penalty kicks, whatever. I'm going to throw an idea at you. I'm going to throw a proposition, if you like, and you're not going to like it. But this idea, if Clement doesn't win this game, that's him. He's sacked. He's done. No Rangers manager can survive 6 Old Firm games without a win. But we've had all that, but we're going to get thrashed by Spurs. Well, that didn't happen. The bad first half of this double header didn't happen. We were really good against Spurs. Should really have won the game probably. We had the whole thing about Aberdeen finishing. I mean, Rangers cannot finish third. Aberdeen can be coming in there and finishing second above us. And although Aberdeen will probably revive and have another go at it, we're now in a situation in the league where if we win our game in hand, we've got a chance to nick in front of Aberdeen into second. Not much of an ambition, but it's a kind of disaster averted. The disaster that seemed nailed on at the beginning of the season as far as everybody was concerned. That's not going to happen. And I'm putting this point to you earlier on about how Rangers are going through this since 2012. It's like, surging ahead briefly in a really spectacular way and then getting pulled back again and having to it's basically restart. That's why the manager's referring to 2012. Again, there was all this hysteria when he said the thing at Dingwall last Sunday after the game. We just won 3-0. And he said, there's a financial gap between ourselves and Celtic, between ourselves and Spurs, and ourselves and Celtic. He dialed that back a bit and explained it. The presser before the Spurs game, he said, no, we can bridge that gap though. And they did last night. They did against Spurs. They did bridge that gap. I think he was just, as I said straight away, I realised he'd said the same thing last season before the exact same setup when we went to Betis, Real Betis. Rangers had never won in Spain competitively against Spanish opposition and would have to if we were going to, avoid going into the Conference League. And he was talking about how the Conference League wasn't that bad. Jose Mourinho's got a tattoo of the Conference League on his arm, but he failed to mention that he's also got a tattoo of the Champions League and the Europa League trophies, because the UEFA Cup trophy as it is, because he's won a lot of them, and he should have the Cup Winners' Cup in there as well, because he was assistant manager but it's because he was at Barcelona at the time when they won the Cup Winners' Cup under Bobby Robson. But and everybody's like, was he trying to tell us to be content with the Conference League? And no, he was just trying to get things less hysterical, to let his players perform and concentrate, and perhaps to let the opposition think that we were going to be content going into the Conference League and went out there and we blew Real Betis away. No, they pumped us for a good 20 minutes, but then eventually we beat them, and it was a really memorable night. And I think it's the same thing. He's talking about his players needing to reset for this game on Sunday and to get that out of their system. They have to be able to get themselves, their feet on the ground again. I think that's what it is psychologically, and it helps you physically, I would imagine, and to go in there on Sunday thinking, oh, we nearly beat Spurs, but we were great, let's do this. No, you need to reset again. I think he's trying to reset the fans as well. But anyway, it was hysteria for a 24 hours about how can he say these things about financial gaps. And he proved why he was saying it with the performance and the result, if you like, last night. So I think people are starting to, all these things that were proven that Clement was a joke and he had to go, dead man walking, they're all kind of like falling away one by one and are getting conveniently forgotten. People are conveniently forgetting they said these things. If we get beat off Celtic on Sunday, they'll all come back. No doubt about that. But is it a sign this guy definitely knows what he's doing, and when he's talking about the need for the club to reset, when he knows what happened in 2012, he gets what I'm talking about as well. This thing, you'll do really well, then it'll come back. And the first League Cup final we got to, 2019-20, and we played Celtic off the park, and we get beat 1-0, offside goal, missed a penalty against 10 men. It was, but I could feel the fear. I remember that day. Celtic was at their 10th consecutive. They were in that thing of winning consecutive trebles at that point. But you could just feel the fear from the east end of the stadium that day because they had so much to lose. This was going to be the end of it. We were totally dominating Celtic throughout that game. Wasn't good enough. Didn't win it. They had the resilience of being used to winning. They were in that winning mode. And they did really well to come through that game and win the trophy. But we then went to Parkhead, a few weeks later, and we won at Parkhead in the league for the first time, so we come back into the top flight. A major moment for Gerrard. Sowed the seeds of what we did the following season. And I think we're now in a situation where I feel like Clement loses, but only loses, say, perhaps on penalties, or maybe just 1-0 or something, and there's maybe we're denied a go by VAR, a dodgy sending off, something like that. We might be in a situation where he'll still come under all sorts of pressure from the Rangers support, but let's just hang on. It's enough to get us to Ibrox in basically a couple of weeks' time, just over a couple of weeks' time after it, and we'll see what happens then. Because I think I have this really weird feeling that almost like the longer it takes for us to beat Celtic, and I'm quite happy for that wait to end on Sunday, the longer we're going to dominate them once we start beating them. Eventually, when we start beating them, we're not going to stop. I think Clement has got a plan. I think it is working. I think we're reaping. You can see the benefits that are there to be reaped slowly coming to the fore. Like the Igamane thing, it's definitely proved that he knows what he's doing when it comes to buying these players. I know you'll be able to provide other examples of players that haven't worked out so far, but it's early doors in this season and things are starting to pick up. We didn't have our own stadium at the beginning of the season. It's the things that we're up against, not saying they're anybody else's fault, but the things we're up against, I think the manager acknowledges them, he's working through them, he's here for the long term, and I think when we start beating Celtic, we won't kind of stop. So I'm just saying, if it could be that situation again that we had in 2019-20 when we first got back to League Cup final since 2012 under Gerrard. It was gutting, it was horrible, but we hung in there. The only problem we've got is we saw what Celtic did to Aberdeen. Aberdeen beat us at Pataudry, and what for them was like a European style game, that European intensity. Pretty much the experience. They don't have Europe this season, Aberdeen, and it was like they took out that European energy on us when we went up to Aberdeen on the Wednesday night. They beat us 2-1, and then the following Saturday they went to Hampden, just a few days later, and they get destroyed by Celtic. It was 6-0. So Celtic are waiting to try and do the same thing, make no mistakes about it. The very first meeting, I think there's been 16, it's maybe the 17th Old Firm League Cup final. I genuinely don't know what the stats are. Celtic have probably won more of them. I don't know, but there's not that much in it. But this is the first one. The first one, 1957-58, was when they beat us 7-1. They beat us 7-1 in the League Cup final. And we were the team then. It was Celtic did not win. They won the league, the double in 54. And that was their first title since the late 30s and their last until the mid 60s. So they weren't a great side then, but they beat us 7-1 against a kind of historical run of play. It wouldn't be against the run of play in this fixture of late if Celtic would have come out and thrash us on Sunday. But I'm of a mind that where everybody predicting it was going to be a thrashing by Spurs and a thrashing by Celtic in this double header. The result against Spurs, maybe it had to be a victory, can be used to put it up against any loss to Celtic that takes if it goes past the 90 minutes. I say an extra time loss or a penalties loss, the manager should be okay. You know, it's just my first with these things is don't get humped, don't get destroyed. But I think we're at that point where the manager said he doesn't need it. Ronnie Espen was pushing him hard on that in the press conference today when the manager's saying it's not about me. This run against Celtic, it's not about me. It's about the club. It's about the team. And Ronnie saying, well, it is about you because you're the manager, isn't it? You know, but he wasn't. He was trying his best. It was some, you know, kind of gymnastics there. But he's trying to make it not about himself. He's ignoring the run that he personally is on, which is kind of difficult because he's been in charge of it. Although Michael Beale obviously was involved in that as well, as was Giovanni van Bronckhorst in the general run of meaningful victories over Celtic that we're not on right now. But we do need it. I think as a support we need it as well. We really need this on Sunday. It's been too long. But as I say, it's been longer for Celtic at times in their history, and they've certainly come back. It does work in circles. But yeah, after the clean mountain air of European football on Thursday night, it's the kind of squalid griminess of an Old Firm game. I first experienced sectarianism. This is something folk don't talk about. It's all that's on everybody's mind. In these games, it's what these games are built on. Even the beautiful experience of being at Ibrox for a European game, there's 50,000 there going crazy. The reason our support is so big is because of this religious divide, this sectarian divide. There's no avoiding it, and just because I know it, just because I can acknowledge it, just because I'm sick of it, it doesn't mean to say I'm not part of it, because I'm addicted. I absolutely love Rangers. I said addicted, not a dickhead. I'm that as well, but I absolutely love Rangers. I'm in there head over heels. Celtic is just the biggest opponent as far as I'm concerned, and all these commentators, all these mass coverage of Old Firm, they're all live on the telly now. 5, 6 Old Firm games a season for decades on end now, and hardly ever does a commentator say, oh, by the way, they're Catholics and they're Protestants and they fucking hate each other. It never gets mentioned. It really rarely gets mentioned compared to how utterly prevalent it is and how kind of sickening it is. I remember going to a game up at Pataudry. It was Gordon Strachan's first game as Scotland manager. I was up there to see Estonia. It was Estonia they were playing, but Gordon Strachan, his debut as Scotland manager, just so happened to come to Pataudry with all his associations with Aberdeen. So that was a nice wee coincidence for him. But I wanted to see Estonia and the Baltic state team. And I remember I just thought, sod it, I'm going to get my ticket. I'm going to go to the old beach end, that Dick Donald stand. Because I thought, well, usually it's all the Aberdeen fans are in there, so for a laugh, I'm going to go in there and see. Every time I'm at Pataudry, I'm stuck in that south stand bit that we're all stuck in. So I'm going to take the opportunity, not as a Scotland fan, I'm going to just go in there and sit in. And I didn't know there's a massive, big war memorial inside. I don't know if it used to be outside the old beach end, but a beautiful big war memorial. And I think it was a February, or was it November? But it was, there was wreaths and everything, all sorts of poppies and all over it, and it was beautiful. And I thought, yeah, we go about as if we're the bastions of remembering and remembrance, for people. And I'm really proud of our armed services and what have you. These people do need to be acknowledged, not just the ones who lost their lives, but the ones who are serving just now. But does it have to be us? Just us? If we weren't here, if Rangers weren't here, no, this would still be happening. And Aberdeen, who we're supposed to hate, and they hate us, they're doing it as well. And that's probably one of the reasons they hate us, because they're thinking, you think you're the only folk in the country who are allowed to remember were war dead, or were people who are serving just now. That's things like that just make you. It doesn't have to be us. If we went away, if both Rangers and Celtic went away, that would the world be would it be worse off? There'd be some kind of football spectacles would be lost. And at times I have really enjoyed the spectacle of the Old Firm. Sometimes if you're in the right mood or whatever, a boy used to sit next to me at Ibrox, my season ticket years ago, in the back of the Govan, sat next to this boy for years, and every time Celtic would come to Ibrox nowadays, he'd get the whole of Brimlin, and you'll never walk alone at the beginning of the game, and I'm thinking that a lot of mawkish crap, but he would just kind of nudge me and go, you got to admit, that's impressive, isn't it? This guy. And I would try to go, nah, I can't still, green and white, horrible colour. I mean, just because if you're a Celtic fan, you think red, white and blue is disgusting. So it's just social conditioning. But I remember him going, it is actually pretty impressive, isn't it? And at times you're just like, it's a great fixture. You get Celtic out there with the green and white on, and Rangers with the blue. It's a good clash of colours when we play each other on the park. That's a big thing. If you want to totally, the Celtic really try to disrespect us in all sorts of ways. Since we come back up through the leagues, no saying our name, the opposition and all that, refusing to use the word Old Firm, while also making sure they keep the copyright for it, their share of the marketing of it, that kind of stuff. But what they should really do, if they really want to totally disrespect us, wear your away kit, wear your change kit. And imagine that. Imagine somebody wore their change kit in an Old Firm game. It's the last kind of respect between the two clubs. It used to be it was the Old Firm because the two clubs were actively working together to divvy up. Now that since the Champions League has come in, it's okay for it to be all-out war between the two clubs. But sometimes I just think I could do without this. It's really horrible. The first time I experienced sectarianism, and so I'm going to talk about it. How daring am I? Try and substantiate this. The first time I experienced sectarianism, it was me that was doing it, and it was it must be the kind of mid to late 70s, late kind of 78ish. So I was about 8 or whatever, and I was Callum Blair. I always remember it's Callum Blair. He used to be the same class as me at school, Stanley Primary School in Ardrossan, and he didn't hang about the same area as us, but for some reason it was him I was kind of kicking about with on a Saturday in the day. There was no paedophiles or anything bad happening in the 70s, so it was great. You could just run about the streets totally free. Mum and Dad just be like, see you at 5 o'clock, just come back in one piece. And we're kicking about. It was Eglinton School, this old school that was shut down, so the kids would go there and we'd run up and down the stairs and jump up and down the roofs and stuff like that. It's a total death trap, but that's what we used to do. And I just remember, I'm the Bionic Man, because it's Steve Austin, played by Lee Majors. He was the Bionic Man, a $6 million man. That was on the telly on a Friday night. And I'm like, I'm Steve Austin, the Bionic Man. He's like, I don't like the Bionic Man. I'm like, what? No, everybody at school loved the Bionic Man. It was the most futuristic thing on television. What are you talking about? Why don't you like Steve Austin? It's because he's a Catholic. I says, he's what? He's a Catholic. Oh, what? I mean, I had no idea what that meant, but I could tell. I wasn't going to have Callum knowing that I wasn't down with the anti-Catholic stuff. So I'm, well, that's it. As far as I don't like him either. Right? Aye, terrible. And I remember it being an hour or so later, whatever. I was back at home, and typically, I mean, it's kind of stereotypical. Maybe I'm getting confused with Catherine Cooks or something, but my mum was standing at the kitchen sink, and I said to her, Mum, I don't like the Bionic Man anymore, I don't like Steve Austin. She said, oh, I don't know, I thought you loved that. She says, he's a Catholic, Steve Austin's a Catholic, so that's it. She said, oh, you don't like Catholics? She said, no, definitely don't know. She says, well, I'm a Catholic. I'm like, what? She said, I'm a Catholic. How did this get past me? She says, and your Nana, her with the biscuits and the dog and all that, aye, she's Catholic. What? But my Nana, she got me my Rangers scarf. I love my Rangers scarf, the red, white and blue tassels, which I thought were individual until I heard from Martin Lambie. Thanks, Martin. I thought were totally unique to me. And she got me a toggle, this kind of duffel bag thing, a denim duffel bag from Conor Duncan's and Salkits, that had a picture of the Rangers treble winning team of 78 at the start of the 78-79 season, with the new strips with the red, white and blue collars and cuffs, with the 3 trophies in front of the main stand. That was printed on this top, and she bought that for me as well. My Nana, that's absolutely terrible. I don't know what it is. And your Aunt Brenda, she's a Catholic. That's what it is. My Aunt Brenda's Catholic. That's what it is with the silver paper, the Peter and Paul. It's popery. It's the satanic trickery. She's using the devil to make the bits of silver paper come back and forth, the triple-headed crown of Babylon thing or whatever. That explains it. I get it now. And I was just thinking, but I've got this, I went with my gran. It was like a wee Nazi, just a checklist. I was just who I was going to, get rid of or whatever. I went with my gran, oh, she's not Catholic. All right, but see, the man she married that died before you were born, my dad's dad, he was Catholic. Oh, how are these all getting past me? Your cousins, all your cousins, Joseph McCluskey, Ian Paul and Francis Mary, they're all Catholics. How's there no clues? How's there nothing to tell me? All these folk that play with every weekend that are going great with and all that. My gran, she did school dinners and that. My gran was great at the baking. But so was my Aunt Brenda. She did catering as well. And she was really great at the baking. It would make me great. And I had this, I just think to myself, but see when I'm with them, I get this feeling of being like really loved and that the whole world's really safe. So how am I going to decide which one I'm going to... And the thing is, they seem to get on really well together when they met up at... My Aunt Brenda and my gran, when they met up at like my birthday party or other cousins' birthday parties and that, they always seem to go on really nicely together. And that, in the end, I just decided that if I loved both my Aunt Brenda and my gran, I would get twice the amount of cake. So it was good to stick with it. So it pisses me off when it must be about a year later. I was at one of Joseph's birthday parties, or Philip's, his brother, whatever, up in Kilburnie. And me and Joseph nipped away. We just nipped out the party, running about the streets and all that, film other wee cousins, getting away from them. And next thing, some of Joseph's pals from school were kicking about the bottom end of the street. And that's when I first heard the word hun. And I thought, you call me honey? What is that? I'm a hunk, whatever, what is that, you know? And they were establishing if Joseph's cousin was a hun or no, and he had to kind of say I was. And next thing I knew, I was fighting 5 of them and no getting on very well as it came to it. So I've had other kind of hidings when it comes to the old firm divide. But they say that, you know, sectarianism, any kind of bigotry, is ignorance, and it is. But the most bigoted, and really to prove that, the most bigoted I ever was in, you know, my genuinely ignorant days as a kid, and then, you know, it kind of evaporates as you get older, as you just get out in the world and meet folk and what have you, and realise that, you know, creepy bastards are just creepy bastards, whatever, you know, whatever religion or whatever they are, or whatever football team they support, whatever. It's just nice folk are nice folk and bastards are bastards. And even middle class, working class, upper class are just lovely folk and horrible folk and all the different, every divide you can possibly manage. There's some folk who love the divides, see them as being safe because they don't want the world to be subtle. They don't want the world to be complex. They want to understand it all in a manner, and you never can. But the one for me was, I remember the bus pulling up, the Stevenson Masonic Winter Supporters Club pulling up on Pollock or something, Pollock Shields or something like that. In a way to, I don't know, we were going to Hampden. I think Celtic were playing, maybe we were going to Parkhead, I think, for a Scottish Cup semi-final, and Celtic were playing at Hampden. It was like the same day. And the bus pulled up, bus stop, they stopped near this bus stop, stopped at the lights or something like that, and there was all these Celtic fans waiting for their bus at the bus stop. So all the boys, you know, all the older guys in the bus are up at the windows, get up, get it when he's in there, totally, you know, and blessing themselves and all that. And I remember I was, I don't know, 12 or something at the time, and looking, this is my first kind of live, collated all together kind of Celtic crowd right up that close. You know, I played football and all that with boys who were running about in Celtic kits and what have you, and, you know, my cousin Joseph, he was a Celtic fan and all that, you know. But seeing all kind of what looked like adults to me, and I just thought, oh, that's a shame. I'm genuinely thinking that, oh my God, that's a shame. I feel kind of sorry for that. They've got to support Celtic. You know, that's just, they're not really getting any choice because everybody at their school probably supports Celtic. So that's, you know, that's total bigotry. I mean, even when you thought you were being nice about it. And in a similar vein, that one back at me, I think some of the most insulting things that have ever been said to me or done to me in company or whatever in my life have involved no swearing, no sectarian epithets or anything, just some fucking horror. You know, there's been some really horrible stuff that has involved a lot of swearing that's happened to me, but it's context is all. So the opposite side of that is somebody saying something that was just devastatingly sectarian, but they didn't mean it in any way whatsoever. They were one of the loveliest folk I've ever met in my life. It was a lassie I used to work with. We worked in this big open plan office. I say lassie, she'd much the same age as me, and she'd just come back to work after having a kid, and I was sitting there, you know, just we get lumped at this same kind of desk thing, we're just chatting away while we're doing more work, just kind of getting to know each other really. And she was dead nice and all that, really, just one of the loveliest people you could possibly meet. And not a bad bone in her body. You can just tell somebody's. And I just remember her saying to me, she was into the Smiths. She loved the Smiths. Oh, I love the Smiths. So I went to see Maggie Marina and 85 and discussing it, and she was like, "What?" I said, I love the Smiths." She goes, "That's unreal." I said, "How?" She goes, "I didn't know Rangers fans could like the Smiths," and she meant it. You know what? You're like, what? You know, and as my mate Robert says. You know, I was telling this story a few years later. You know, once Rick Morrissey was up to the kind of stuff, she gets it now. She probably thinks that's why. Like, oh, aye, Morrissey's turned into a right wing nutcase. That must have been why Alec was into them as well, because all Rangers fans are Nazis. You know, it was that kind of thing. But I was just sitting there, just like, amazing. You know, there's this kind of everybody must go into their box, and you've been brought up to think they are all evil, and they don't think the way they don't have the same music taste. They can't have any kind of, I don't know what it's the Smiths or indie music or whatever like that. No, that's all my world. So therefore, and Johnny Marr, I think, has spoken of his admiration for Celtic and what have you. But that was one of the moments you go, my God, this shit goes deep with folk, and into their later life and what have you. And that's I don't really know why I'm talking about it. I think I'm talking about it because I just find it horrible. There was something that happened recently, not to me, but to somebody I know, and it was just, I thought, this shit's got to end. This shit has just got to end. People are just will find other reasons to hate each other and what have you, but I just have a kind of, I think that the time that you most realise, the time that I used to say that the only difference I could find, now Rangers and Celtic fans were different sides of the same coin, and I don't think so. I think, for example, I'll throw this, I know by Celtic fans watching this, but I always feel as if Celtic fans are more dyed in the wool. They need it more. And the first thing you hear from Celtic fans is, user, that will ruin your entire life. You'll be beating up the wife tonight because Rangers didn't win or something like that. It means so much more to you. It's just football fans, just kind of, everybody loves the football in different ways. And I've sat with Rangers fans who are no way interested in Rangers. That game I was talking about, Celtic beat us 5-1 at Ibrox, one of the lowest moments of my life. One of the moments you realised that how long it was going to take us to work off the kind of long-term setback of 2012. And there was a boy sitting next to me, as I've told you before, the seats to my left-hand side are not season ticket seats. And there was these boys sitting in there who were older than me. And it was going like 4-1, 5-1. They were like, in fact, it went 4-0, didn't it? And we pulled it back to 4-1. Then it went 5-1. They were laughing, just laughing at each other. And you get that, there's the kind of gallows humour among supporters who are just, we know we're going to be back the following week anyway, and all you can do is laugh. But this was a kind of, this is stupid. And they're wearing Rangers scarves, not. And unfortunately, after I said something, they left. Because I was just going through absolute hell, and I like to make sure I stay at the end of the game, win, lose or draw, and the people were losing and people were leaving in their thousands for the Rangers ends of the stadium that day. But I just was like, so I know there's people who just regard football in general in different ways and all that, but there's some horrible stuff. But I think that the thing that unites Rangers and Celtic fans the most, because you can do the whole thing of IRA, UDA, Pope, King, the dodgy stuff going on with the Vatican or whatever, the dodgy stuff going on with Prince Andrew, Justin Welby, all that kind of stuff. You can just go through it all, and it used to be the only thing I thought that really separated. I went through a whole phase of just thinking there was just no real difference. And it is just an accident of birth. Let's be honest. It's just nobody changes their minds. Very few. Anybody who does change their mind about what they're born into in terms of supporting a football team stands out. People will know about that. That guy who supports Rangers now supports Celtic, or vice versa, if it's ever happened. All this, but the team winning or losing might affect the crowds, but it doesn't affect who you support. For the vast majority of people, nobody really changes their mind. There's no intellectual basis to this. It's just tribal. And you get people who are really hyper intelligent at the football. It's tribal. Nothing will convince them. But that's what the football's supposed to be there for, to let that part of us personality out there in a kind of supposedly harmless way. But I think the only difference was in the terracing days, and sorry, but Parkhead was terracing a lot longer than Ibrox. And I used to go to Parkhead in the 80s and into the 90s, and when Celtic scored at Parkhead, and when Hampden was still mostly terracing as well at that point in time, and when Celtic scored an Old Firm game, the ferocity with which they would jump up and down, it was a kind of it's like a big trampoline. The jungle was like a big trampoline. It was just like they seemed to be doing 25 kind of up and down star jumps to the Rangers fans 5 in the same amount of time. And when Rangers would score in Old Firm games, we were kind of, oh, easy, yeah, fucking beauty. We kind of staggering about, fawning about the place more than jumping up and down kind of thing. And that's bollocks as well when you watch the way both sets of fans celebrate goals. It's much the same. Physical, but I had it in my head somehow that's what the Celtic fans just seemed unbelievably rabid. whereas we seemed kind of, oh yeah, the order has been restored, kind of thing. And it's probably complete bollocks. But what I realise is that the thing that most unites us is that point in time where you say to yourself, when you physically cannot imagine, emotionally, I mean, obviously intellectually, you know that if things had gone a different way in your family or whatever, where you were born or whatever, you would be, you'd be a Celtic supporter. You just would be. Or if you're a Celtic supporter, if you'd been born and your dad had decided to take you to Ibrox or something, if that's an option in your family, you could have been a Rangers supporter. You know that things could have went another way, but you can't feel it. And you feel it when you see the other mob, that other lot, as just being total weirdos that you cannot understand. You have that quiet, almost quiet conviction. It's your baseline kind of setting that they are just completely alien. And there's no way, you see Celtic fans, or you're a Celtic fan, you see Rangers fans going past, and you're like, what the how, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Did you do? You are them. The person that you don't get, you are them. When you're at that point, because that's the thing you've got to have to be an Old Firm fan, to be part of. We're no part of it. We're no half of anything. That's that, and that saying that proves that you are. Do you know what I mean? That is the point at which you're most like your opponent. So the only way to be different is to try and be a bit nice, and that is probably the bitterest thing you can ever do, is try and be nice to the opposition, pretending that the other half of the divide doesn't bother you. Well, that does. I think I've really gone off the beaten track. This is far too. It feels as if I've got to do a long podcast. These mega games, these massive games, you've got to do a long preview pod. It could probably be a 5-minute post-match reaction pod, depending on how the game goes. How many League Cup finals you've been to? This is my 16th. This is my 16th League Cup final, which sounds quite good, but for a 55-year-old Rangers fan, I've missed about another 16 that I could have been to in that time as well. The last time I didn't see Rangers at Hampden, the last game Rangers played at Hampden that I was not at, first team, full game, was the 2002-2003 League Cup final against Celtic, an Old Firm League Cup final. So that's, I don't know what that really means, but it's to kind of explain to you how there's holes in my attendance of Old Firm League Cup finals into the 90s as well. But this will be my 6th Old Firm League Cup final. The previous 5, we've won 2 and we've lost 3. And we've lost the last 2. The last 2 I was at. So I think my favourite ever League Cup final was the 3-each draw with Aberdeen that went to penalties, won on penalties with the Super Cooper free kick. And just that whole day I ended up, I've told you just before I got a ticket, there's 2 boys from Northern Ireland that my mate and I were getting on the train at Kilwinning. So that was the Stranraer train. We got up to Glasgow, and there was 2 fellas from Northern Ireland that had just come over, and they had never been older than us, but they'd never been in the Rangers end. They'd never been in the terrace, and we've got these pesky main stand tickets. They're dead centre of the main stand. Where are you going? Well, we're in section J. Would you want to swap? Didn't even want any extra money. I'm like, aye, okay, because we'd spent most of our life on the terrace at Hampden, and the seats we got it was better than watching the telly. The view, dead centre of the main stand, just a total fluke. And then Rangers and Aberdeen served up this game, and David Cooper hit the best free kick I've ever seen, the best direct free kick I've ever seen in my life. One of the greatest Rangers goals of all time, if not one of the greatest goals ever scored at Hampden. That was just part of the story. It goes to penalties. We beat them, the whole Ian Durant thing as well. Him scoring them. It was lovely. It was a cracking day that. The day we beat St Mirren after going down to 9 men, that was pretty phenomenal as well. That kind of summed up the second coming of Walter Smith, how that team would just not be beaten unless the opposition were totally killing themselves to beat us. They were great, and we want a bit of that. Years later, Matt and Brenda had their own kids, Paul and Julie, 2 of the loveliest folk you can ever meet. Paul, he was into kind of wargaming and soldiers and all that. We soldiers when he was a kid, but then he joined he just joined the Territorial Army. The next thing, he ended up in fucking Helmand Province. He joined at the wrong time, if you like, but no harm done, apparently. And a lovely guy, a lovely young man, Paul. He's tremendous. This is my Aunt Brenda's son, so Could do no wrong as far as I was concerned. But I don't know what happened in terms of television coverage. But my nana, just before she died, we all went out to hers one Sunday because the Old Firm game, she had some sort of special connection on her telly or something, and she had Sky free for a week or something. I don't know what it was. But so we all went out to hers to I didn't have Sky at that point. And we went out to watch Old Firm game and telly. I must have been at uni or something like that, and I didn't have the money. It was because the game was at Ibrox. John Hughes was it that equalised for Celtic with a header. And Paul was just still quite a wee boy at the time. I mean, he'd be like 10, 11 or something like that. Never showed any real interest in football the whole time. It was always Airfix stuff and all that, which I loved as well, the soldiers and that. And so me and my dad are sitting. My dad's not that particularly interested. He just wants to watch the game. He's a Kilmarnock supporter. But I'm sitting watching this Old Firm game. My nana's there. Paul's sitting at Brenda. She don't care neither. She's chatting with mum and what have you, and I'm totally, oh, come on, Rangers, and Rangers scored. I'm like, yes, and everybody's kind of laughing at me because I'm the only person who really cared. And then Celtic equalised. John Hughes equalised. That's my wee cut. Paul was just sitting, he just goes, yes. I thought, aye, that's fine. So the thing to remember is, I don't know if it's the same for you, if you're on the other side of the divide, if you're a Celtic fan, but I always think, certainly, if you get into the sectarian thing, the idea that there's no Catholics that I like, nothing. There's Catholics that I love to death, and they would look after me in a major way, and there's Celtic fans out there that I do actually love. So I think we should all be keeping that kind of shit in mind when it comes to the pish that goes on around these games. Yeah, what's that one? Let's try and get an hour and a half. What the hell? Nobody's watching this anyway. Nobody's watching this pod. Who's going to watch a pod for more than an hour? The one I put out the other night for the preview in the Spurs game was at an hour and 8 minutes, and I think I got about 2 folk have watched it. So just to prove that I'm in no way, I'm not after the likes, I'm not after the views or whatever it is you're supposed to farm when it comes to these things. I just want to get shit off my chest. I see. I did the Goodfellas, Raging Bull, Casino thing. Another kind of analogy I'd like to end on. I haven't mentioned Heat for a couple of pods. I think it's the MO. The MO is that they're good. The crew, Neil McCauley, Danilo, the crew that he runs in Heat, the bank robbers, the major criminals, when Al Pacino as Detective Vincent Hanna turns up to see their handiwork after the first big job in the film, the armoured truck raid. They're good. What's the MO? The MO is that they're good. Drop of a hat, this crew will rock and roll. That these guys will rock and roll. The shape chart proves that they are technically proficient, but and then they shoot. Why leave a living witness as soon as they had to kill the first guard? They popped the other 2 because it escalated to a murder beef. So just get rid of all the witnesses. And I think they're good. They're top notch. And I've watched that film, I don't know how many times. It's only recently it started to dawn on me that all the jobs in Heat, this crew is so good. All the jobs that they actually do in Heat, you've got the seeds of the downfall were sown in the very first job you're watching. Waingro. Waingro comes along on the raid on the armoured truck at the beginning. When they knock the armoured truck over, they steal the bearer bonds. And because Waingro's got too much to prove he's a cowboy, he kills one of the guards for looking at him the wrong way. So they've got to kill the other guards, and that means, robbery homicides team Vincent Hanna are on them. They've attracted this heat that they didn't need. So that's what goes wrong. They then Waingro, they've got a gun pointed to his face when he's on the deck in a car park, and they can't shoot him, and they lose him altogether. So that they can't even bump off a guy who's been a problem for them. As this master criminal crew, they do they try to sell Van Zandt his shares back, his bearer bonds or whatever they are. He's supposed to meet them. He sends guys along with the money to meet them in an old drive-in in Santanella, and the guys come along. They just get blank bits of paper. They've not got the money. They kill them, but they don't get the money for that either. So that's another fail. They do the precious metals depository. And that's when they realise the police are watching them doing that. The police are actually hoping to break in. So they have to abandon that, and plus they leave all their gear, the other equipment. That was costing them a fortune. So that's Neil's crew, another complete muck-up. And then the main thing in the whole film, the Brian Eno music, that's the bank robbery. They have a big massive shootout downtown that everybody remembers because it went wrong, because the police are onto them, because everything goes. The only job they actually get right through the whole thing, well, they execute. Danilo Neil finds Waingro and shoots him. That's great, right? So that's a big personal side job, which actually ends up getting him killed. For taking and putting the love of his life in danger, and actually identifying the police. Making the police expose themselves and showing that so they can find out who's. But so this idea that Celtic are this great kind of unbeatable crew, no, they're not. Think about it. They're so doable. They're so doable, and we have got the ability to track them down and shoot them near an airport. I just hope that when it comes to full time on Sunday, whenever that may be, after 90 minutes, after 120 minutes, after penalties, whatever, I am not doing the Al Pacino bit when the guy in the truck gives away the fact that they're watching Neil's crew go away before they break into the place, so they can only get one breaking an entry. They haven't actually stolen anything yet, so they have to let them go. And he gets out and he just goes back to work. Enjoy the game on Sunday, folks.